and I apologize for that.
No, but here's the thing. You had a previous drug case.
Yes, ma'am.
So I don't understand why you continue to try to build your happiness off somebody else's misery.
This one jumped straight into the deep end. No soft landing. No easing into it. We've got a woman who rolled up with over 400 grams of illegal substances stashed in her car. And from what I can gather, addiction has completely taken over her life. I've watched defendants try to minimize their situations before, but when you're carrying that kind of weight, it stops being personal use. It starts looking like a career move. What's wild is that in most states, that amount alone can automatically trigger trafficking charges, regardless of whether she claims it was all for herself. To me, this isn't just a lapse in judgment, it's a full-on collision course with reality. So what do you think? Does addiction genuinely explain behavior like this, or is it just another excuse that criminals hide behind? Let's get into it and watch.
State versus Samantha Venegas. Could I have parties announced?
Jason Garrett, from the state, Your Honor.
Denny Callahan, defense.
And are you Miss Venegas?
Yes, ma'am.
You entered a plea to count 2 on March 26th. You entered a plea of no contest. According to your plea bargaining agreement, punishment is to be assessed at a cap of 15 years in the prison. There's a $2,000 fine. State opposes your application for community supervision and deferred adjudication. They're taking in consideration 2024 CR 008054. Have both parties had a chance to review the PSI report and TAP evaluation?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Any objections, state or defense?
No, Your Honor.
Any witnesses, state?
State.
Defense, any witnesses?
Only allocution in writing from the defendant.
All right. Any objections to the court reviewing the defendant's writing?
No, Your Honor, the state is actually reviewed. No objection.
All right. The court will hear argument. Well, before I hear argument, there are some things that defense maybe you can address with the court. It says in the PSI that her guilt is minimized. And I did read where she's saying that the vehicle's not hers. She knew there was drugs in the trunk, but she didn't throw them away. She didn't do anything about it. So I don't know if there's any insight you would like to give on that.
Yes, Your Honor. I think it's a good inference from the stipulations and the PSI that she was used as a pawn, taking advantage of her poverty and her addictions to methamphetamine. And she's ashamed of that in her life, not only you, but more particularly to her family. There is an element of voluntariness in her actions. There's also an element of being trapped in her actions. And that was one of the things I would ask the court to consider before you assess punishment. I have 3 other remarks.
All right, you may proceed.
And I suggest to the court as a proper resolution of this case, because she's still relatively young, deferred adjudication, 10 years, ISF treatment, and she asks you to put her into drug court, which is intensive supervision for every day. That shows some indication of remorse and desire to be rehabilitated.
All right, so here's part of my issues, right?
Yes, ma'am.
One, I have to look at criminal history. And I would have clients sometimes, you know what they would tell me? Why are people looking at my criminal history? We're just here for this. That was in the past. But I would always tell them that your criminal history is sort of like a credit report. And what you're trying to get is probation. So people are trying to say, has she been placed on probation before? You know, will she do well?
Yes.
So it shows that you've been on probation before. And a motion to revoke was filed, and you were revoked and sentenced to 5 years. I know that was in 2007.
Right.
And then in 2014, you were sent to prison for another case. And in 2015, there's a case that you were sent to prison for, and I believe these were running concurrently because it appears that they were running concurrently. And then 2016, again, that's a case. It was running concurrently with the others. So what I'm viewing, it doesn't appear that you would be a good candidate for probation.
May I say something?
Sure. You want to raise your right hand though, because the state may have some questions if you want to say something. All right. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right. You can lower your hand, state your name for the record.
My name is Samantha Benavides. I know, okay, I did, in 2010, I went to prison. I was gonna get reinstated on probation, but I took it up with my grandfather, and my grandfather wanted me to go do the time instead of being reinstated on my probation, because he was scared that I was gonna get messed up again and go do a large number of time, and he was gonna pass away.
And
while I
how
was
old were
gone.
you when that happened?
I was 29, 30. And so that's why I chose that. I chose that because my grandpa asked me to do that, and he ended up passing away 6 months before my release. But that is why I was going to get reinstated. At the time, my attorney was William Reese, and they were going to reinstate me and send me home, but my grandfather asked me to get it over with.
She actually sat there and claimed the trunk full of illegal substances wasn't hers, like she just happens to drive Uber for criminals on the side. I've heard some weak excuses in my time, but that one is downright insulting to everyone's intelligence. What really gets me is that she admits to being an addict, has a criminal history longer than a CVS receipt, and still seems to think probation is a realistic option. I don't know about you, but if I was standing in front of a judge with that kind of track record, I'd be on my knees begging for mercy with some raw honesty, not spinning fairy tales. Probation isn't a comfort blanket, it's the final warning before the door locks behind you. To me, this just shows how deep denial can run when someone refuses to own up to the mess they've created. And the way she says it all with the most straight face, it almost makes you want to laugh. But then it hits you that it's actually sad, because she genuinely seems to believe what she's saying. I can't help but wonder how many times she's played the same card in different courtrooms, hoping some judge will finally bite. Honestly, this is just painful to watch.
That is why I went to prison.
All right. So you're telling me that I could understand maybe there being pressure on you with saying, oh, let me listen to my grandfather and take this time. But at the time you were 29, 30. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the other cases, because you got out of prison and then you pick up more cases.
In 2014, I revoked. I have my parole, and I went back to ISF for the last 3 months of my my parole, and then that was done with that. And then in 2016, I went to prison again in 2016, and then I revoked and went back to safety, and I came out and I completed the rest of my probation.
Okay. Why do you keep failing at probation?
Of it with parole, the second.
Well, I mean, you
Yeah.
failed at probation and you failed at parole. Why?
The first time when I was younger, I really don't have, I made some poor choices in my life back then, and I was young, I was ignorant.
But no, for the case that you said the first case, you said, I just agreed to be revoked because of my grandfather.
Yeah.
All right. You're telling me then you were 29.
Yes, I didn't
30.
go report.
All
I didn't go
right.
report, and I
But then
had
you-
a drinking problem back then.
Okay.
And back then I would use cocaine a little, and but I had a heavy drinking problem. So I was young, I was stupid, I was living in the bars basically. And I wasn't, keep out there running the streets or nothing like that. I just didn't want to go report. And that was my biggest downfall right there. If I would have just went and reported and went and taken a UA, everything would have been okay. My life would have been a little bit, different. The other time, when I got out, I violated parole. It was because I came out of dirty UA.
Okay. Let me ask you this,
Okay.
because I understand your past. Do you know the amount of drugs this was, the weight of it?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
It's a lot, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You can continue.
My life for a little while, I was just, I made a lot of mistakes and I'm not proud of it. I'm very sorry for them. If I could take them all back, I would. Now that I'm older, now that I see things differently, and trust me, this opened my eyes. I was doing a lot, I was. I was just trying to, this last offense, I was something, it was just, I was trying to, get by, pay my bills. I was stuck in it. I was just trying to get out of it. And I see now that what it cost me, what it could cost me. And I apologize for that.
No, but here's the thing. You had a previous drug case.
Yes, ma'am.
So I don't understand why you continue to try to build your happiness off somebody else's misery. So that's basically what you're doing. You're taking a shortcut and you're building your happiness off somebody else's misery. Addiction and can't stop. And there you are for money.
Correct. You're right.
All right. State, do you have any questions?
Just facts of this case.
Okay.
Ms. Venegas, on this case, you stated that the drugs weren't yours or the drugs were somebody else's.
It wasn't mine. It was in the vehicle.
All right. Could you speak up, please?
It wasn't mine. It was in the vehicle. But I was aware that it was in it. And I should have gotten rid of it.
So you're
When I
aware you had a
opened it.
key in your pocket that matched the lock to the box that the drugs were in, correct?
Yes.
Right. Okay. No further question, Your Honor.
Nothing further. I have one other point, Your Honor.
Yes.
She has family support and was unable to get finalized letters into your hand indicating that support. That's all, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Venegas,
Yes, ma'am.
the amount of drugs in this case
Yes, ma'am.
is, let me see, over 400 grams.
Yes, ma'am.
And from what I read in the police report, and this whole thing about the being in your boyfriend's car and you don't know, you were in your boyfriend's car and you should have got rid of them, but you didn't. It doesn't ring true based upon what I read in the police report, because according to the police report, you're known as that's what it says in the police report, and that's what was stipulated to. I don't think you're a good candidate for probation. The court is going to find you guilty. The court will sentence you to 15 years in the prison. There's a $2,000 fine. Time and money will run concurrently. The court will take in consideration 2024 CR 008054. I'll suggest the therapeutic community. Did you review the document entitled Trial Court Certification of Defendant's Rights to Appeal with your attorney? Did you understand it?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you sign it?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, because this is a plea bargain agreement, because I followed your plea bargain agreement, because you waive your right to appeal, you do not have the court's permission to appeal. Excuse me. Thank you. Because this is a felony conviction, you're not allowed to own or possess any weapons or ammunition. If you have a question over what a weapon or ammunition is, you'll need to speak to an attorney. Do you understand?
It's almost comical to me that her attorney is standing there trying to paint her as some kind of victim, when she's already done 2 stints in prison. At this point, you're not unlucky. You're just fully committed to this lifestyle. I don't buy for a second that she has any real interest in changing, because if she did, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. Imagine being halfway through your life and still falling back on the "I was young and stupid" excuse. That line doesn't hold any weight when you've been cycling in and out of the system for decades. And here's what really gets me. The fact that 15 years was offered as a plea deal actually means she should have been facing way more than that. That's the part people tend to overlook. Plea deals are bargains, not sympathy gifts. Personally, I think cases like this dilute the whole purpose of rehabilitation. It makes the system look like it's just babysitting people who don't actually want help. So I got to ask, how many resources and second chances should society pour into someone who clearly doesn't care before we finally draw the line? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and take care.